It's the Harris Football Podcast, brought to you by DraftKings, America's top-rated daily fantasy app, with your host, Christopher Harris.
Welcome! Hey, everybody! Welcome in. My name is Chris, you children of the possum. Thank you very much for listening. Things are still pretty tough out there. It is a pretty lonely time for a lot of us. Trust me, I am by myself all day, every day, and it's a grind. I hope that you're doing everything you can do to keep yourself connected. I know for some people that includes listening to this podcast, and believe me, it also holds true for me making this podcast. It's good to record segments with my friends and good to just have a little mini project every week that I have to do in which I talk to you. And I don't know, maybe sometimes it just helps to hear that other people feel it too. I'm struggling right along with you. But, you know, we have to try and keep it up. And part of that is continuing to isolate as much as possible and wear masks. But I also just wanted to start this way because it's honest. It is really hard on me personally, and I know that it's hard on you as well. So, okay, coming your way this hour on the little podcast that could is pretty much frivolity to hopefully distract us from all that. We've got the Super Bowl coming up. Oh, and I wanted to mention, they're not sponsoring or anything, but they have been a sponsor in the past, and I'm taking advantage of their services. Indeed is a job website, so this is not an ad for Indeed. In fact, Harris Football posted a job on Indeed for the YouTube channel. We are looking for someone to help us with advertising and marketing the channel. So if you're a freelancer and you have experience doing that kind of thing, go to Indeed. So I'll put the link to the job in the show notes of this MP3 file, but if you go to like company reviews and you type in Harris Football, you'll see the description of the job. We're looking for someone to help make a media plan and someone who's done this for YouTube channels in the past. Be lovely to find someone to hire. Okay, so I'll get to the Super Bowl. That'll be most of the rest of the show because we're all excited for this game on Sunday. But I wanted to talk about the huge trade over the weekend.
In my mind, I'm going to Spain with Stafford.
I mean, cheese plates for everybody. Suddenly, Stat Padford is coming to Southern California. Only time will tell if that means more cousin Josh visits to the yacht. Stafford is a Ram. Jared Goff, the Goffling, he's a Lion. And I think and I hope that you know from listening to the show that I think there's a gap between Stafford and Goff. Stafford's better. Goff had the crazy great year. He's been to a Super Bowl. The Rams surprised the league with their narrow splits and their legit downfield attack. And then, didn't surprise too many people the last two seasons, not as much. And as I have tried to explain, what I've seen on Goff's film, he has a lot of defenders, and I think the defenders pointed to the stuff about what the Rams would say about Jared Goff, right? When you're defending Jared Goff all these years, as I've kind of said, I'm not so sure about Jared Goff, then you've gone, well, Sean McVay sure seems to like him.
Coaches lie.
And basing your opinions on the things coaches say usually does not work out that well. Obviously, by trading away Goff and 2 firsts and a second to jettison the huge contract and to get Stafford, the Rams' actions are the thing that actually told you what they really believe. So for this trade, I've seen reactions that have run the gamut. The Rams paid way too much. They got ripped off. 2 first rounds, are you kidding me? That's way too much. Or the Lions, so foolish. They got taken advantage of. They got a lesser player and everything in between. And I will say, Goff is not a schmuck. He's not Blake Bortles. He's not like Ryan Fitzpatrick, Andy Dalton. Sorry, I know you have some of those players have some fans, but like dudes who probably shouldn't be starters in the league anymore, right? The temporary wonders at the position that people have tried desperately to prove, he's a thing. Jameis Winston, I would maybe put on that. I certainly would prefer Jared Goff to Jameis Winston. If you gave me a choice between Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins, I would take Goff. I mean, maybe not with Detroit, maybe because we have to see if they keep any of their receivers. But just if I were an NFL team in general, I think on schedule, Goff is good. He rolls through progressions quickly and correctly a lot of the time. He's pretty accurate on time. You can attack zone defenses with him. You can attack man coverage with linebackers underneath against him. He throws well into tight windows. Generally speaking, as long as he's not in panic mode or desperation mode, I think he's probably actually a little more trustable than Stafford not to gack things away. But off schedule, he's not always a disaster, but he's a lot harder to love. He's not the one you want throwing the ball when it's 3rd and 11 and you got to have it, and he doesn't have a lot of choice because maybe there's a free pass rusher and he has to make a high degree of difficulty throw to the sideline to your alpha receiver. Like, he's kind of a fair weather guy. Not literally, but he's needed stuff around him to go right. He's also entering his age 27 season, so this may not be all that he'll ever be. But he probably shouldn't have been a first overall pick. If we could go back and redo that, he probably shouldn't have been given a $134 million contract a couple years ago. He's not a bum. Stafford's different. He's more of a scrambler. So if Jared Goff is like the good version of Alex Smith from his Chiefs days, then I would say Stafford is kind of a highly variable, certainly lesser version of like Brett Favre, that sort of player. He still has a big arm. He's still a gunslinger type. He runs around. He takes hits. He takes deep shots. He often rescues his team when he kind of has no business doing it. But career stats and season stats, they don't tell us everything. Like Lions fans, they know. I think I know. I've probably watched close to every game of Matthew Stafford's career. He can look great. He can have huge comebacks. He can have big stat games. He has higher highs than Goff. He can save you off schedule. He isn't an android. He can buckle some swashes and lead you back from the brink. But there are also games he personally punts away. Often when it's not that much adversity, he's not being crazy pass rushed, whatever. He has a lot of comebacks in his career. He's dug out a lot of holes. I mean, he's not like Bortles. He's not like every hole is his fault. He's not a bad player. He's quite good, actually. He's a tough dude. He had a long Iron Man streak for a time there. He's also not really an alpha personality. I mean, he's not the guy, the quarterback who just, grabs the team by the scruff of its neck and gathers the room together and like imposes his will. I think for Stafford to be as effective as the Rams obviously now want him to be, I think they have to add a deep threat to their receiving core, because a lot of those stats that stat pad for pads, a lot of them come on trust balls and have come on trust balls to great players, like fast players like Calvin Johnson, or just big time ballers like Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, big fast guy. Stafford likes getting out of structure and likes giving his receivers that little extra time down the field and then damming the torpedoes in a way that Jared Goff doesn't. If the Rams are still Kupp and Woods and just mix and match behind them, I don't think it maximizes Stafford in a way that it can maximize Goff. A lot is made about how amazing Sean McVay's scheme is, and I mean, I guess it seems to me that most passing offenses have a lot of free yards underneath to open receivers. That's kind of what the NFL is now. Stafford basically had the same number of deep ball attempts this year as Patrick Mahomes without Golladay for basically the entire year, or close to it. And Goff had about 2/3 as many with a better receiving core. Stafford had 873 of his receiving yards on those throws. Goff had 416. So listen, there are a lot of shoes that are left to drop. The Lions have to decide on Golladay and Marvin Jones, and if it's not them, then who is it? Who's Goff throwing to? And we'll see if the Rams can afford a real deep threat that I think would be the key to unlocking Stafford. I already wasn't going to have Goff anywhere near a top 12 for 2021 among quarterbacks, even with the Rams, and Stafford was already going to be higher than Goff for fantasy. I would say top 12 is now even more in range for Stafford because Woods and Kupp are terrific at what they do. And because, you're going to hear people go, oh, that McVay system, Stafford in that McVay system. I'm like, well, I think it's, when people say that McVay system, I think they're talking about a lot of bunch routes and misdirection and tight splits and trying to get guys wide open. And I kind of think that's what the league is now. And maybe a lot of people have learned it from the Shanahans and McVays. That's fine. But the Lions did plenty of that last year as well. For me, to be really excited about Stafford, to be able to have him take advantage of what Woods and Kupp can do on the underneath stuff. And Woods isn't slow, but he's not necessarily a deep threat. But to have him do the Goff stuff, but then Goff plus it, I want another deep threat. If they could find a legit fast guy or big guy down the field who isn't just fast or big, but it can actually play, I think I would like it for the Rams even more.
Today's kickoff.
Okay, on today's show, that's pretty much going to be all the topics of the non-Super Bowl variety. From the rest of the show, we're going to preview this upcoming Super Bowl game, this Brady Mahomes Buccaneers-Chiefs game. My first guest will be Chris Raybon from the Action Network, and we're going to talk about a little bit of where the bets are, where the action is, what would hurt the books, and how they would feel good of a result here, and then also talk about some of Chris's favorite approaches for how to handicap and wager on the Super Bowl. And my second guest...
Hello.
You know him, you love him, you can't live without him. It's Jim McCormick of ESPN, and Jim and I are going to take a deeper dive into the Super Bowl, talk about how we think it might go, and then also run through a whole bunch of player and team props and see what Jim thinks. It should be wild and fun, and I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you have fun as well. Thanks for listening. We are brought to you today by Burrow. If you haven't heard of Burrow yet, welcome to the podcast, because they've been sponsoring for a long time. They're the furniture company built from the ground up to get rid of everything that annoys you about furniture shopping. So back when Burrow started sponsoring the show, they sold a single modular sofa system. Since then, they've grown to take care of your entire living room. I have many Burrow products, and actually both of my abodes have the Burrow sofa. I literally just got the new Burrow coffee table to go along with that Burrow sofa, and my Burrow ottoman as well. I love this new coffee table. I have posted a picture of it on Twitter so you can have a look. Burrow has credenzas, side tables, coffee tables. They also have a new second line of sofas giving you more choices. Buying direct is a great idea when you know the furniture is high quality, which I can personally tell you it absolutely is high quality. It can really save you money. Take a look at what Burrow's been working on. Show them you're listening. Check out burrow.com/Harris. You'll get $75 off your first order, and you'll get free shipping, which when it comes to a sofa, that can be more than $100. That is Burrow, BURROW.com/Harris for $75 off your purchase.
Today's guest.
And today's first guest, he's back on the show. It's Chris Raybon from the Action Network. You can find him on Twitter at Chris Raybon, and please download the Action Network app, because that's where you can check out all the Action Network advice for your handicapping of the Super Bowl and everything else. And specifically, you can follow Chris's picks and how they are doing. Hello, Chris Raybon. How are you?
What's going on, Chris? Glad to be back one last time for the this crazy season.
Yeah, there you go. And we had you on the first show of January where we kind of set the stage from a handicapping perspective on the playoffs. And of that conversation, lots of things stand out to me, but probably the biggest takeaway that I got from that conversation was how public a team the Bucs were because of Tom Brady, presumably, and how I remember you specifically saying, the thing that hurts the books the most in this scenario is if the Bucs make the Super Bowl. So here we are.
Yeah, that was kind of the prediction, I think, from a lot of, the casual fan was like, okay, the Bucs got Tom Brady, they're going to Super Bowl. The Bucs got, futures action on the Bucs starting from essentially when they acquired Brady and, throughout the season. And then, now they're in this kind of situation where, a lot of those are going to come due, but it's tough because the Chiefs are also a very public team. And, as far as the spread itself goes, we're seeing there's about 64% of the money, 60% of the bets on the Chiefs as a 3-point favorite across, the industry. So I don't think this is a Super Bowl that the books wanted to see either way. Particularly, I think it would have been a little bit better if one of the more long shots made it.
So mainly because then people could lose their shirt on those long shots. So would you say the fact that the public in the Super Bowl to this point, now we're talking on Wednesday evening, right? So things can, a lot of bets are going to happen between now. I mean, actually, I don't even know volume wise. Like, do we get more bets in the last 3 days before the Super Bowl than we have like for the previous week and a half?
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably the last 3 hours. Like
right.
the average bettor, and this is true across pretty much everything, is not really concerned about betting or putting some action down until the game's about to start, because it's casual bettors. They're
right.
they want to watch the game, have some action, and then with the Super Bowl in particular, the line is 3. Maybe it's 3.5 at some places, but it's a very efficient market as far as the spread and total are concerned. We've had, the maximum sample size of games for the teams, and you're not going to really find a huge edge. So there's not a reason for, for example, sharp bettors in a given week, when the new lines come out for the next week of games, you'll usually see sharp. Sure. Yeah, right. But in this case, it's a very efficient market. And so I think, a lot of the bigger edges are going to be found on some of the player props and things like that.
Yeah. I was actually I kind of stopped my own question, because what I was going to ask is the fact that we expect to this point, we expect that the public will be a little bit more 60 to 65% on the Chiefs. Is that going to balance out some of the damage that the Buccaneers making it this far has already done?
It's hard to know, just because we don't it's, so that, that's in totality, it could vary by books, so right. Like somebody that's going to place like $100,000 wager on a Bucs future is going to do it at the book that had the best odds at the time, rather than necessarily, going to a bunch of different books, which sometimes happens when you're just trying to steam a line. So it's hard to say, but I do think that, it could kind of help in the sense that because they're so public, both of them, that it may end up balancing things out. But the books, I don't think are going to have like a huge payday like they would if some other scenarios had come to fruition.
All right. So let's talk specifically about what you think of these lines. You've said it. I mean, it's fluctuated between 3.5 and 3. I guess as of we record, it's closer to 3 and 3.5, but there's a little more juice on the Buccaneers side. I think I'm leaning toward Tampa a little bit here, and maybe it's my Patriots footy pajamas finally peeking out under my clothing, but I would like it a lot more if I was at 3.5, frankly. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree. There's not a ton of value on either side, but I make the line, just in my projections, about 2.5 in favor of the Chiefs. So, at 3.5, I like getting, especially the 3.5, like getting the Bucks. But even at 3, anytime if you lose, if the Chiefs win the game by a field goal, you push the bet. It's not the end of the world. Again, there's not a huge edge to find on either side, but I think these are two very good teams. I think they are, for the most part, evenly matched. You are in Tampa Bay. I don't think there's going to be any home field advantage or anything. Like there really wasn't in the NFL period either way. But this is not a scenario where I think like either team has a huge edge or somebody should be like, there's major value on either side of this line. I think, the Chiefs have, a slightly more ridiculous or in his prime quarterback, but both of these teams are just very good all around. And that's why the line is what it is.
If I were going to pick of the 4 units on the field, 2 offenses, 2 defenses, I think the worst is the Chiefs defense, and maybe the best is the Chiefs offense. But if Kansas City had Tampa's D, I would feel a little bit worried for Mr. Brady. But frankly, I don't think they do. And we know Spagnuolo is going to be aggressive because he always is. That is a do what they do sort of defense, and they're going to blitz. It can work. I mean, hell, it worked the first time they played the Buccaneers. Like, we remember that game, and Brady led a little bit of a comeback and then sputtered out, throwing a ridiculous interception when he could have driven down to tie the game. But just historically, knowing Brady, I have never felt like a team that sent pressure was a good match, did well against Brady. I want pressure with 4. I want that Giants model where you don't have to send extra guys, where you can still continue to confuse him with a bunch of different mixed up looks with the back 7. And the Chiefs will try maybe some, but it seems to me they do what they do, and they're going to blitz. And I feel like it'll kind of, I don't know, that gets us into the conversation of total, but I don't know. How do you feel football wise about what I just said?
I think it's starting to shift a little bit, and I definitely agree. I think we talked earlier in the year about the Bucks matching up with Aaron Rodgers and how there are certain type of things that like I thought the Bucks could do that could slow him down. I think watching Brady this season. Where have the turnovers come? Because Brady's never been a guy that's going to throw, commit a lot of turnovers. They've come more often on the downfield throws. Last week against Green Bay, we even saw a play where I think they sent pressure on, maybe it was a third or fourth down, and he threw up like this prayer that got picked off. And like, I just think at this point, Brady is gonna, if you sit back, he's gonna drive him down the field. So you're gonna kind of send some pressure. I don't think that they're going to say, hey, we need to get pressure with 4, because the Chiefs, they also play a lot of 2 deep shell, right? Whether it's man or zone. And if Brady sees that, I mean, they could check into runs. I think there is going to be some pressure, but I think it could kind of mess up Brady a little bit, just based on what we've seen where, Mike Evans, had the dropsies. Chris Godwin has had the dropsies. Just the tip pass. You just want to create havoc. As far as the total, I mean, listen, it's at 56 right now. I make it about 57. It's not a major difference. It's just that when you have a close game like this, I think it kind of ups the total a little. But I would still expect the Bucs to do what they do, and everyone tries to make the Chiefs on the other side. Kind of go down the field and tries to sit back and not really blitz. And it's funny because teams have done that, and the Chiefs have started to realize what they're doing, and they'll just throw underneath to Tyreek Hill and let him run like 80 yards after the catch. So it's tough to actually succeed in your kind of what you want to do against both of these quarterbacks. That's what makes them really good.
Which is what makes it sounds like to you like the over. I mean, we know the over under is listed differently at different places. It's all pretty close, but like it opened at 56.5. I think that was kind of the general feeling. I mean, we have been sponsored this year by bookmakers, so I checked them. They're right now, as of our recording, 55.5, but I definitely see some 56s. That is an alarmingly high total. It really is a high total. And it kind of, the question of how the Chiefs are going to defend Brady, to me, is almost turnovers are one thing, and crazy kickoff returns and stuff, we can't really predict that stuff. But if Kansas City's going to come after Brady, I love the over. I'll put it that way. I think, of course, you're right. If the receivers start dropping little open intermediate crossers against a 2 deep shell, then this will look bad. But presuming everybody plays fairly well, I think Tampa can keep up.
Yeah, and you also have to look at the other side. I think, some of the earlier bets have come in on the under, some of the bigger bets, because the action's about split 50-50 overall, but the public is making some of them over bets, and the sharps are kind of a little more on the under. But do we really expect the Chiefs to run that much? That's another thing, because running keeps the clock moving, and that's what's happened in some of these Chiefs games over the second half of the year. Remember, they played Buffalo and had a lot of success. I think it was week 6 running the football, and then from then on, I feel like they do cover once or twice more, and for the rest of the season. And a lot of that was because they started playing these slightly closer games where they were a little bit more willing to run in certain situations against this Bucs defense, where it seemed like all year they've been great against the run, but it seemed like every time the Packers gave the ball to a running back, even on a pass play, something bad happened. Like Aaron Jones had 3 fumbles. I just don't know if you want to mess around too much. And I don't know if Andy Reid is going to want to mess around too much with running on this defense. I think what you will see is Tyreek Hill, I think, gets at least 1 carry. McCole Hardman. I think we saw about 4 or 5 carries by non-running backs for the Chiefs in the last Super Bowl, and I think you do see that again, and that's going to be how they kind of want to run it. But I don't think you're going to see 20 combined carries from Williams and Edwards-Helaire, and that helps the total.
Right. Yeah, and the market agrees with that point also. I'm going to mention this one with Jim in a little bit, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire's rushing yard total over under, even money, 30.5.
Yeah,
that is not a lot of respect right there for the Cajun lawyer. All right, so let me ask you kind of what kind of in-game props do you tend to, just as a bettor or handicapper yourself? What do you tend to gravitate toward? Are you a kind of a randomness guy? I like the coin flip. Or are you more, I'm going to try to figure out how this game goes and I'm going to bet sacks, I'm going to bet first down. What do you generally look at on a board?
Yeah, it's so, and the great thing about the Super Bowl here is you can bet on like any stat almost. Like in most games that you are lucky if you get like a sack prop for a game.
Right.
But yeah, I'm looking at the in-game player, the box score stats because first of all, the public generally is going to bet over, so the lines for almost any kind of prop like that are going to be a little bit inflated toward the over, and it's just kind of understanding range of outcomes and what affects what, and so yeah, I'm looking at the player props like not some of the crazy props. It's I might dive in if like I think it's severely mispriced. Like I think one year there was like a prop about whether Andre 3000 would like appear alongside Big Boy at the halftime show, and I was like, this guy's like a recluse. Like he doesn't even come out. He doesn't even do albums. He's not. There's no way he's making like a surprise appearance. And so like I hammered the other side, and like that worked out. But generally speaking, it's just kind of breaking down. I have my projections for the box score, and everyone can go check them out at actionnetwork.com. We have our pro feature where you can kind of see our props and our value, relative to those. But yeah, it's just looking for edges within the game and what is off by the most, and what do I think the range of outcomes is going to be. And so you have a lot more chances to do that in this game. So it is actually great. The one thing, as we talk right now, we're still not sure about some of the lesser receivers on both of the teams. Like, what is Antonio Brown's role going to be? Sammy Watkins, is Robinson going to come off the COVID list, which do affect some of those props a little bit. But generally, yeah, you're looking for edges on those box score stats.
Do you ever play like the goofy cross sport? I'm gonna who has more points, like the Chiefs or LeBron?
I don't really that much, but it's kind of the same thing. Like you can get an edge on those as long as you have a good grip on what the expected value is for both of those outcomes, because a lot of times what will happen is the Super Bowl, they're really only posting these for the Super Bowl and maybe a handful of other events throughout the year. And so what they're going to do is you're going to usually shade the line to where the positive Super Bowl outcome is inflated, and whatever it is for the other side is a little bit is like there's value on the other side. So if you have a good handle, and like I think I saw one for like Joel Embiid point, rebound, assist versus Mahomes' attempts. Like if you have a good projection for the other side and you see value, then there can be value the same way there can be on a normal player prop. Like it's not like they're just like kind of gimmies or anything like that. You can kind of break them down and find the value.
Yeah, I'm looking at Bookmaker now. They're comparing Tyreek Hill receiving yards to University of Colorado in their basketball game against Arizona. Their points. Whoa. Okay, cool. That's a little beyond me. Yeah.
It's interesting though, because then it comes into like how these things break down. Because remember, you score points in 2s and 3s. Tyreek Hill can get 80 yards on one event. So that's kind of how. But that's how you would break it down. You got to kind of look at that. But with the Chiefs, if you just project it out, I think a lot of people are looking at maybe some of the unders, that I've heard, and for like Kelsey or Hill, and it's like the Chiefs tend to just be so good at kind of targeting their top guys and like concentrating the targets around those guys that I would hesitate to bet any unders on like Hill or Kelsey. I think, even for first touchdown, which is usually inflated, like I think Tyreek Hill is actually a pretty good value at like, I think he's like plus 650 or so. He's led the league. He's tied for the league in first quarter touchdowns since 2018. Second in first quarter targets this year. I think he's got their first touchdown in like half of their or more of their last three over the second half of the season. So I think with the stars, you're a little safer going with the overs than you would be in some of the like other games of the year, because you're not going to have a situation that creates variance as much where like they get a big and they take them out of the game, or they decide to get someone else involved just for the hell of it. Like this is for the marbles. And so the books, you're always factoring in some regression to the mean when you're setting these lines, but that regression is not as strong, I think, in this kind of game. And so I think you generally see the star players perform a little better.
Plus, I don't like the back four. Like I like the front seven an awful lot for Tampa. I just don't people trying to. I've been saying on the podcast all year about how PFF had Carlton Davis as their number one corner for such a long time, and I'm like, I'm watching all these games and I just don't understand what you're looking at. And I think reality has caught up to that. He's okay. I mean, he's just he's a number one corner that teams like, cool, we'll throw against him, no problem. That's never a great sign. So I was going to leave you.
Wait, before I do want to talk because it's fascinating. I think it's one of the more fascinating parts of this matchup is that like you look at those guys and they're you don't think they're as good as maybe some systems would lead you to believe. But I mean, a big part of, I think, Tampa Bay having success, especially in these last 2 weeks against, two of the greatest quarterbacks and just two of the most balanced, the best teams in the league, is they were able to kind of slow down. They shut out Michael Thomas or basically against New Orleans. And then, Devontae Adams, I think that was one of the differences in the game. They try to go to Adams 3 times in a row in the red zone and don't succeed. So, even though the individual parts, maybe you have some question marks. I mean, you have, Dean and Bunting making big plays all the time and Davis playing well. So, it's kind of confounding because what was the team that had a lot of success against Davis? It was the Kansas City Chiefs and Tyreek Hill. I mean, he had a whole career's worth of stats in the first quarter of the first matchup. So, but I would think Hill continues to get the ball, and I think that's how you're going to beat the Bucs. You're gonna just try to throw, get downfield and get matchups against that back four.
All right. So is a Tyreek Hill over? Is that your favorite? Like, I'm going to ask you just before we go here, what's your favorite prop for this game?
I think as of right now, so I'm going to make more of my bets when we figure out, what the true status is of all these receivers. Because that, like a lot of times, one of my favorite bets last in the championship game was Equanimous St. Brown's under receptions, which he hit. He had one, 1.5 of the line. I think he had 2 1-star games. So a lot of the value comes on guys like that. But right now, I'd say Darrell Williams. He still got his reception prop at many books is still 2.5. I would go under that. He only ran a route on 31% of the dropbacks compared to 49% for Edwards Elaire. And I just don't think that, I think that he's kind of the put the game away running back, for the Chiefs at this point with Edwards Elaire healthy. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of Darrell Williams, just in the flow of the game outside of the goal line or things like that. So I would go under his reception at 2.5.
And I think I saw at Bookmaker that Edwards Helaire also over under of 2.5 on receptions, and the under money line is minus 148. I think Vegas is telling us they do not expect those Chiefs running backs to catch much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one there might be some value on the over there because again, it's you have to just kind of look at the routes run for these guys and how that's trending. So Edwards Helaire at 49%. He's generally run half of the routes or more in games he's been healthy, and with the lack of or with what we expect to be, I think, a little bit of a lack of a running game for the Chiefs. I don't expect them to kind of bang Edwards Helaire into a stone wall. I do think that he may catch some more passes than he has in many of these games. I think it's more when you're betting these props, a lot of times it's just going to come down to simple usage. It's like the reason the books are setting all these lines is because if they're all correlated in some way, right? Like if Williams goes, the more likely Williams is to go under, the more likely Edwards Helaire is to go over, just because it's likely going to come down to playing time more than it is for a matchup. Because if not, then somebody else is going to go over somewhere else. So it kind of all goes into that. But I just think based on the usage that we should see Edwards Helaire with more usage than Williams. And I think if for like Ronald Jones long shot props, like most leading the game in rushing yards, because both of those Chiefs backs, we don't expect him to get many yards. Mahomes hasn't been scrambling as much. Tampa Bay plays a lot of zones, so he might not necessarily get that many lanes. I think Ronald Jones, a guy who's got double-digit carries in 4 straight, could get messed up if the game script goes awry, but also has broken big plays from time to time. I think he's an interesting guy. I think I saw him at like plus 275 or something like that to lead the game in rushing yards. So I think that's an interesting one as well.
Hey, his rushing yard total 42.5. The under is minus 150. So
yeah, and that's just because like you could easily just put that down to like 40 and make it even money or something like that. I wouldn't like the juice is just more so how the they're trying to balance their books without trying to going too far away from their median projection. So
right.
I wouldn't pay too much of attention to like that.
Well, I would pay attention.
Isolation.
But I would pay attention to the fact that Leonard Fournette you have to spend more money to make money on Leonard Fournette having That's 50.5. So they are just telling you flat out Fournette's going to have more rushing yards than Ronald Jones.
Well, yeah, it's just a carry. So Fournette has had 55 and 57% of the carries in the running back carries in the two games where the two last two games. So you're essentially expecting Fournette to have about 11 or so carries, 10 and a half to 11, and Jones 8.5 to 9. And so that's just kind of how you're projecting those. Jones has been a higher yard per carry guy.
That's what I'm saying. I'll take the better player. Yeah, that's
right. Yeah. So that's that's how you're kind of finding value here. It's just understand the risks. If Tampa Bay's won every game since where was it? I think that's Chiefs game, if I'm not mistaken. And so Jones, there haven't been a situation where their game scripts have really gotten too crazy. So if that happens, that changes things a little.
Yeah, but then neither one. Then neither one hits it. I like Ronald Jones there. I do indeed. So I'm going to agree with you on that one. All right, Chris. Well, this was fun. I hope you enjoy the Super Bowl. And folks, follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Raybon. That is Raybon. Download the Action Network app and follow Chris there. You will get an insight into all of his prop bets for this game. That's worth doing. We get to see what he's doing. He's pretty good at it. Thanks for coming on all year. I don't think you're going to take a little bit of a rest is what I understand for a few months, but certainly we'll have you back on like in July or August. But until then, I know the audience has had a lot of fun getting to know you this year and following you on Twitter, and me too. And I hope to talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure, man. Take it easy.
Hey, we're sponsored by Gabby Insurance. When you've had the same car or homeowners insurance for years, I mean, you don't think about that much, but you might actually be paying too much. My homeowner's policy is in Massachusetts. I've had it at least 10 years, and I figured it would be a hassle to investigate, seeing if there's a better deal. But with Gabby Insurance, you can easily investigate whether there's a lower rate out there for the exact same coverage that you already have. Gabby provides apples-to-apples comparisons of your car and home insurance coverage with 40 of the top insurance providers like Progressive, Nationwide, and Travelers. I had my homeowners, like I said, forever. I got a PDF of my policy. I uploaded it to Gabby. They found the same policy at Progressive, and it's saving me a little bit of money, which is great. On average, Gabby customers save $961 per year. And if they can't find you savings, they'll let you know, so you've got the best deal available. And they will never sell your info, so no annoying spam or robocalls. See how much Gabby can save you. It's totally free to check out. There's no obligation. Go to Gabby.com/Harris. That's GABI.com/Harris. Gabby.com/Harris.
Underscore Baron, his jokes make me smile. Lawsuits he's drafted, never meaning to file. Poisons Rhode Island.
He is the underscore Baron. I'm not sure he didn't mean to file those lawsuits, but they're still out there. And poisoning Rhode Island, all of the things the song says. It's Jim McCormick, and you can find him on Twitter at _Jimmy McCormick. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Long periods of isolation, I'm built for them. So,
well, you have a family. That's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, no, I do. I'm just saying, like, being in a contentious, cold family, I mean, when they said go to your room, like your wing, like that we were used to that. We each had our own Wi-Fi, and I'm not even sure that the internet was created yet. So I'm not sure what that means.
I'm not sure what that means either. All right, so we're gonna do. I'm gonna ask you about the Super Bowl largely in this segment, but first I thought I would have you comment upon the thing that I did the open to the show, which is the Stafford-Goff trade. You can approach this from whatever perspective you want. I wonder just sort of what your initial reaction was.
Well, the first thing I thought about was how hilarious it was when they probably started to have to text Jared. I know he's in Cabo or whatever at the time, but I'm convinced that like Les Snead and isn't that the GM, right?
Yeah, Sean McVay.
And Sean McVay. They all have Apples, and that Goff has an Android, so he kept messing up the text chain. So they were like, "We're trading you," and he would respond with like an emoji, and it would be out of the group text, and so they kept having to loop him back in. Like it was like blue, and theirs was green. It got really confusing, and they couldn't tell if if he was reading the text properly, because he was just in Cabo chilling, taking shots with Stafford. But in any case, it really saddened me because I realized how much it would cost to get off of Wentz's contract when I saw that.
Yeah.
But just the negative value concept of what you had to pay. But at the same time, I kind of appreciate, I don't know if it's one of these market inefficiency things, because it's not like first rounders like have a value, but it does seem like moving the future first like has some sort of like
that
we talk about.
That part of it I really like, to be honest. That's a great point that I didn't talk about. I think there's the hinkyification. You're sitting there in Philadelphia. There's a tendency to overvalue the future. And I'm not, obviously you're right. First round draft picks completely have value. They have tons of value in the NFL, probably more than in the NBA because you don't have to pay them at first. But there's the future does not outweigh winning a championship this year. And if you might be wrong, but if you it's kind of the same thing I said about the DeAndre Hopkins trade last year, which was, okay, I'm very suspicious. However, if they go win, I don't mind. I'm okay. It's okay with me. I was more suspicious that DeAndre Hopkins leaving was the course to winning. But like if the Rams are in the Super Bowl next year, who cares about those first round picks?
Yes, and it's also, I don't know, it's like how we used to talk about targets, or it's not a good example, but like that everything would have like a singular 1-to-1 value, right? Like that, like so one player could have 5 targets, but they were all like 3 yards down the field. Or right. I don't know. My point being is that things have different values that we can treat as 1-to-1 like quantities. And I don't know. You're right. Like I don't know how to predict the value of those two first. But my point is that if they're mid to late 20s, that's not like they're treated as just like the potential of what they are. I guess is what I'm saying. The variance of the future, and I maybe that's I mean, so in any case, that's kind of what I came away with.
Sure, and I think that's a really I didn't talk about it at all. I think it's a really excellent thing to bring up that the Rams have a new paradigm. They don't care as much about first round draft picks because they feel like they have a mature roster that should be winning Super Bowls, and I think that's a good perspective. I mean, we run it in fantasy all the time with dynasty. Like with yes. 7 or 8 years ago, Larry Fitzgerald not getting drafted in dynasty leagues because he was too old. Like we run into Tom Brady having no value in a dynasty league. Well, yes, he does. If he wins it for you this year, he does. This I would rather win this year than have some dude who might be good in 3 years. Which isn't to say always mortgage the future, but just sort of know your team. And the Rams very clearly consider themselves to have the mature roster to do it. The question really is the only way this works is if we've all been right about Matt Stafford all this time, that he was better than his results, better than his team's results, that it wasn't his fault. And I think it's fair. There are plenty of times where really good quarterbacks couldn't make a bad situation work. Like, I mean, Deshaun Watson hasn't won a Super Bowl. Everybody's talking about giving up 8 first-round draft picks for him. But we won't really know until he's in a better situation, and we are going to find out now. What's your suspicion?
My suspicion is that this is going to work pretty well. That he was being held back, but because like the QB wins factory, the concept. I just think that it's such a multi-dimensional sport in terms of how you have to win. Like there's just too many factors, and so we're seeing that with like Brady leaving New England, not to go on like. It's not like they're not losing because he's gone. They're losing because there's some erosion with the overall roster. But what I'm saying is last week we talked about like how do you separate like their powers, those two people or those two entities, the decision makers in that franchise, Bill and Tom. And I guess with respect to this, it's like this. Just what I'm saying is this proves to me. This would prove to me when Stafford does well, which I think he will, that. Quarterback is a position. It's not everything. That just like the Mahomes, like Kansas City is a great team, but there are many franchises where Mahomes wouldn't be this. Like he'd be amazing, but he wouldn't be this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I one thing I did talk about off the top is I'm not sure Stafford and Goff really play the same position in the same way, right? Right. Stafford's a little more loosey-goosey. He's a little more. You know what? If the first read isn't open, I'm gonna maybe jump out the back door, or I'm gonna try to take a hit to make a play, or I'm gonna, there's a little more Favre in him, as opposed to Goff, who's a little more Alex Smithy, right? And like I don't know that McVay is smart enough to know this. I'm not sure. What I said off the top is I'm not sure the personnel necessarily fits what Stafford needs. He's always had a Calvin Johnson Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay, get down the field, be there, like, let me be a hero and take a giant hit to just give you a 50-50 ball, but you're so good that you can make the play. And, maybe the Rams had that with Cooks, or maybe you can argue they didn't. I don't know. Some people hate Brandon Cooks, but they don't have it now.
Yeah, who benefits from that? Like, I like the name Van Jefferson because it sounds like a terrible movie about college.
I don't think it's him, but they talked about how much they liked him, and I don't think because of what he did this year, but he's just not a fast guy.
Right.
But
right.
I mean, it's interesting. I think something that you bring up is very will teams that are, Belichick just has never been the one. They've had a quote unquote mature roster for 20 years and he just never did it.
Right.
He never pushed all his chips in the middle and said, doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter if I lose the first round pick next year. Doesn't really matter. That's not the team building philosophy he had. Clearly the Rams are trying something different. All right. So speaking of Belichick and the place where his team is not, but his former quarterback is, what a segue that was.
Yes.
We're going to talk Super Bowl. And just by way of recapping, we both picked the championship games correctly. We both had the Chiefs and we both had the Buccaneers with the points. Neither of us had the Buccaneers to win straight up. Did you happen to wager? Did you take a money line Bucks bet against the Packers?
I did.
Nice.
Yes. And it was fun. It was
That
fun.
was fun.
I just felt like it was time. It was time for Tom to do it again.
So for that, our picks have been extraordinarily in sync for a month or so, just only a couple of games different. But maybe that's what comes from being good friends for a decade. Maybe we think about this stuff similarly and doing a point spread show together for like 2 years.
That helps.
But so we are both now, what are we, 7-5. So hey, man, we're going to have winning playoffs. Against the point spread, we've done it.
I'm up a sandwich, so let's do this.
Up a sandwich. So I already had Raybon on the show earlier. I think he's leaning Tampa with the point spread. I think that's what I got out of him. I'm going to call it -3. Some places I think you can get it -3.5, but if you get it at -3.5, it's juice one way, and if you get it at 3, it's juice the other way. So it's close, right? What did you imagine this line was going to be before you ever saw?
I thought it would be a little bit more Vegas zone-y. Like, I thought it would be closer. I thought it would be like 4.5, to be honest.
Me too.
Or I just thought
How do
it
we
would
think
be
about
bigger
this stuff
than
so
this.
similarly? It's crazy.
I just thought it would be bigger than this. Like, I knew it wasn't going to be 6. That just seemed too much for a Super Bowl. Just like in terms of they didn't want to expose themselves that much. Right. But I just thought it would be like 4.5. I thought it would be that weird, like, I'm uncomfortable number. Whereas 3, I just am like, I'm kind of surprised. But I guess it's just Tampa can be a public team in a way, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the question you always ask yourself is in a very, very hotly bet game like this, is it the public team that's keeping the number down, or is it simply Vegas knows something? And we've all seen it go either way. We've all seen it look. I don't know. I'm going to surprise you because I'm going to kind of go against what my initial reaction was. I think I'm going to take the points. I think you're going to give them.
I am giving them, yeah. I am. I like the if I'm doing any parlays, it would be the over. I think it's going to be a fun game, but I'm giving the points, and I like the over.
I went around and around, and I don't feel strongly about it, and it kind of is invalidated. And I'm really trying to make this not be about Brady, just being I'm going to root for Tampa because I got 20 years of rooting for Tom Brady, and just like personally, I'll be sitting there, and I have like the Chiefs are to this point, if the Chiefs go win, 6 Super Bowls in 20 years, people will find things to hate about them too. But for the moment, they're the cuddly Patriots of trying to repeat, or trying to win another one in 2003. So like, I have nothing against the Chiefs. If the Chiefs win, I'll be like, awesome, that's great. They're a great team.
They're an unoffensive juggernaut.
Yeah, totally. They're probably. I mean, Tyreek Hill is one thing, right? It's hard guy to root for. But there aren't too many stories like that.
No.
So this is trying to separate the Brady homerism, and there's just something smelly. I think that's what I'm coming down on. There's just something smelly. I thought it'd be 5, and it's 3.5 or 3 or whatever. You're gonna be able to get 3. You can get 3 since you want the Chiefs.
Yes.
You don't have to give the hook. I'll buy the hook to 3.5. Let me ask you this. I sent you a list of adjusted spreads where the Chiefs are winning by more and or the Buccaneers are winning. did any of those adjusted spreads strike you as intriguing? Considering you like the Chiefs to win the game, could you get to like Chiefs minus 7.5 and you get plus 208, which is doubling your money?
It's tough. I wish that was more, like, meaning I wish like there was a little more juice on that. But it's worth it to that's the only one I would take would be Chiefs 7.5. As it progresses to 10.5, it's only plus 243. Giving 7.5 is plus 208. So I mean, it's a 2-to-1 return. More than that, like. Yeah, so exactly. I'm saying, but like in terms of it's paying for the VIG too, in a way. Like that's a bad way to look at it, but I'm looking at it that way. So I could see that because I could see that outcome. Like I could see an outcome where it's the 10.5 is tougher, just because 10 is such a football number, and I could just see them chasing back to that. So 10.5 is difficult, and also the juice between that isn't that big, 208 to 243. So not to get tied to the minutia, but that's the only one I would do.
Okay. So by way of talking about how we suspect the game actually might go, let's talk total as well. So the total I talked with Raybon earlier about, it opened 56.5. I think right now, as of our recording this, it's 55.5 at Bookmaker, but there are other places where it's still 56. I think how you think this game is going to go will be answered by the question of whether you're over or under 55.5, because that's a pretty big number.
It is, and I have it over. So like I've done a couple parlays already, just because there was a couple boosts on some of these sites to do like a plus 380 to do a parlay, or plus to do a parlay with those two, like something really more robust than a normal parlay. So in any case, I like the over. I think it's going to be a shootout to an extent, and one that Tampa isn't going to be able to keep up with. So
tell me how that goes. Like, Is that do we get a 24-0 Tampa score and then Mahomes comes back? Like, you don't know that much, but like,
I think they pull ahead. I think it can get a little weird early, and then like, it can look like I think it could look dejected a little bit. I think Tampa could look a little bit out of it for a little bit of the game, but then they're going to come back, and I think it's going to be interesting. But they'll still they'll still cover, like Kansas City will. So it'll be a game and there'll be some of those chunk plays. They'll come back. I think it's going to be a yardage fest. I think it's going to be not that different
than the regular season game.
Eagles Patriots Super Bowl. Like, I think it's going to be one of those just like fantasy fests. Like, we're all going to score.
Track meet.
Yes.
And honestly, it sounds like not that dissimilar from the game between these two teams in the regular season. Chiefs had a big lead. Brady hadn't played well. They found a way to dig in, held him to a few field goals, led some touchdown drives, actually got the ball back with a chin. And Brady, it was a terrible game for Brady, but and Raybon earlier said he actually thinks that if Spagnuolo maintains the let's face it, all they do is blitz. They send pressure. They send pressure. And my feeling is that is not wise against Tom Brady. It isn't what I would do. It is what they did the first time, and they held on, but it isn't what I would do. I guess the question that leads to me to is, does that for you, if it is the Chiefs' aggressive defense the way we've seen it, where listen, they don't just play cover 2 on the back end when they do that. They play some man, they play some combo. They'll certainly slide help Mike Evans' way always. Like, do you feel like the way Brady played in the first half, I would think you wouldn't want to do that, but I guess the way he played in the second half against the Packers, you actually might want to put pressure on him that way.
Yeah, the ball was flying around a little bit, but I do think. I mean, look, like Ray Lewis of all the sages, he was like, you got to make him uncomfortable and get him moving, as if Ray Lewis ever did that well against Tom Brady. But like, he was like giving the recipe to Phil Simms, and like Phil Simms is like, what are you talking about? But in any case, like, I do think there is a little bit of that. Like, if you can make him move a little bit, I think that I do think Spags is going to be aggressive. I think he's his Jimmy Johnson, like Andy Reid's. Like, I think he's his aggressive, and I think he gives him a lot of power to make those decisions. So I do think they're going to be aggressive, but I'm not sure it bites them the way that maybe they came back. I just think it's going to be a track meet. And conversely, I mean, Bowles likes to blitz a lot, and Mahomes is a robot as well with that. So
Hey, a quick break to say the 55th Super Bowl is this weekend, 55. And a game this big deserves a big prize, not just some trophy. DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of Super Bowl 55, has up to $55 million in total prizes up for grabs with their Super Bowl prediction pool. All you have to do to get your share of these huge prizes is enter DraftKings' free Super Bowl Prediction Challenge. Once you submit your picks, you will get a free instant prize up to $25,000. And if you have the most predictions correct, you could win the top prize of $1 million. Download the app now, enter the free Prediction Challenge, answer questions like who'll score first, and boom. Get ready to make it rain. DraftKings has paid out over $7 billion to its players since 2012, so they know a thing or two about big paydays. Download the DraftKings app now and use the promo code Harris to enter the free $55 million Super Bowl Prediction Challenge. Everyone gets an instant prize up to $25,000 just for playing. So use the promo code Harris now and enter the free $55 million Super Bowl Challenge only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of Super Bowl 55. Terms and conditions apply. Eligibility restrictions as well. See DraftKings.com for details. Okay, we're back with Jim McCormick, and we are going to talk prop bets. We've talked a little bit how we expect the game to go, and of course, how we expect the game to go is going to influence what we think of prop bets. So there's millions of them, right? There's a lot of prop bets, I what I said to Raybon was just give me a couple that you like a lot, and I didn't do that for you because I wanted to talk to you a little bit longer because I know you would tell jokes. So I picked out a few. The first one I picked out was total punts because. Yes. I tried to pick out some lines where I was like, really? Really? So the over-under for total punts that I found at Bookmaker is 6.5, but the under is -145 and the over is 150.
I would pay it. I think this is like a slam dunk under. I do. I really do.
Okay, well, clearly they do too because you're not making a ton. You're giving up juice plus. You really you're like not. Under 6.5. Heck, 6.5 punts.
Yes.
I think I would probably bet the over if I were going to bet it because I just don't feel like the payoff is worth the reward. But
right.
Yeah, I understand what you're talking about. Track meet means not a lot of punts. And, 6 punts is not nothing. 7 punts is not nothing. But I think
these teams average 6.3 punts for the regular season. So combined. So like they came up with this number somehow, like with
sure. I mean, they came up with the alt number somehow, but they're really encouraging you to take the over.
They are.
Largest lead in this game. The over under is 16 points.
That's tough. Yeah. I think it goes over that. I do.
Chiefs got a big lead.
I think it gets the set. Yes, I think it gets, but again, the way that obviously football scoring works, we all understand this. I just think it can get back to a one-score game at some point.
Oh, sure. Literally, that's how the first Bucs-Chiefs game went. That's exactly how it went.
I just think that's possible. And I like the plus. I like the like it's not plus. It's -104, but I like that it's not,
closer to even money.
Overpay.
Right. Yeah, closer to even money. Some of these props are not great value. Let's face it, when you're betting a lot of these props, you're not getting great prices regardless because they know that they have you over a barrel. Pay us for the privilege of playing these stupid props. First team to use a coach's challenge. And the thing that I found most interesting here is it's not split evenly. That it's Chiefs -110 and it's Buccaneers -120, which means the Bruce Arians beret of truth clearly is a little more apt to fly off the handle and accidentally challenge you something you shouldn't challenge.
It's absolutely the hat. I mean, both of them completely boomer masked the entire time. So if there's like a mask coverage prop, like how many times do you see lips? Like it would be like I would take the over on both of them. Yeah. But with respect to this, it's definitely Bruce. I'm sorry. Like he's gonna have a Walkman on. Like he's throwing a flag.
It's just he like game management wise. Like we used to make so much fun of Andy Reid, and unfortunately, a lot of the time it was at your expense with the Eagles.
It was so true too.
He was so bad at clock management. He was so bad with his challenges. He couldn't get his headset to work to get the thing telling him to do the right thing, and it just feels like that has totally fallen on Arians. He's not the worst, but you just have this idea that he's sputtering and it's partly he just sort of looks confused some of the time. I don't know. I feel like I might actually play that one.
Yeah, Andy Reid used to look like he was about to get kicked off of Hell's Kitchen. Like he just looked like he just like overcooked a steak, and that Gordon Ramsay was going to kill him. So,
and that's now kind of what celebrity chef Bruce Arians. Will there be a 2-point conversion? yes is plus 100 and no is minus 130. So even money on yes and
yeah. I like it. I'm taking it. I say yes.
You're taking the yes.
I just think there's going to be so many touchdowns in this game that there will be the opportunity at some point late in the game for some math. And I think the abacuses will be out. There will be like the win probability meters will suggest this.
Well, and I like the idea of parlaying like the big lead, this over 16-point lead.
Yes.
Well, yeah, then I would parlay that with will there be a 2-point conversion? Yes, because that
Yep.
if the Bucks are down by
and
17,
over, you can get weird with it. Yeah, if you want to get really weird with it and get one of these big weird contingency plans, go for it.
I mean, that, if you went Chiefs -3, big lead 16 or more, yes. Total punts under.
Yes.
You are painting a picture a little bit of how the game goes, and if you're right,
yes,
it would pay off pretty well. The longest score of the game. I just wanted to say this one because I wondered if you thought that the line was funky. It's either the longest score of the game will either be it's a field goal or a touchdown, and the line for a field goal is -142, a touchdown plus 114. So what you're saying is Tyreek Hill isn't going to have a 60-yard touchdown.
Right. Or I think a number of these, like there's like Scotty Miller might have a longer touchdown than one of these like 48-yard field goals. Like I also think that the kickers might not be as busy just based on the aggressiveness that's going to be required. Again, like I'm painting a picture of this certain type of outcome, this archetype. And like just, if you're down 17, you're not going to kick, like unless you're the Bills. Like you're not going to do this. Like I don't feel that they're going to be compelled to bring the kickers out as much in this environment.
Yeah, I mean, you and I didn't get to talk about it. I talked about it a little bit off the top of last week's show, but the two losing teams in the championship games with their respective game management skills being sort of old Andy Reid-esque, whereas Reid has shown this year that against the Browns, he gets it. He's like completely figured it out. It really painted a picture that you can't get one of those decisions out of Reid or Arians in this game. You just can't. Like they have to be strictly attuned to the idea, like, okay, if it's questionable, we're going for it. If we're not getting, we're not going to be on the 7-yard line and just have a feeling like we're not going to score here and kick a field goal. Like that's not the way this game is going to go.
No, a conservative's not going to work in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it might work for the Chiefs if you're right about the big lead, but the Bucks if this is is there a universe where you imagine the Bucks actually keep the Chiefs like in a Patriots-esque style, like 24 points, 28 points. Like, do you think that's possible?
It is, yeah. And I'd just be super salty because all of my bets will be tied together on like a raft. It'll be like Tom Hanks and I on a raft of just losing. But at the same time, like that's low on the outcome spectrum, I think. So. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it comes down to Mahomes isn't perfect. He makes a fair number of mistakes. He just then comes back and kills you because he is mad and he doesn't make the mistake again.
He can load the bases. Yeah, he can load the bases, but then he'll strike you out kind of thing. So,
that's a great way of putting it. I don't know. I think it's on the table. Like, I think there's a likelier opportunity for... I don't know. That's not true. I think there's an equal opportunity for Mahomes to blow the game as there is for Brady to blow the game. Even though Mahomes' ceiling in the game is clearly higher. Absolutely clearly.
What's the over-under on haircut mentions? Because it's gonna be really high.
Well, God, after the barber, right?
It's gonna be so high. They're gonna say barber. It's like Tiki Barber's gonna be so mad because they're not even gonna mention him.
It was Rondé Barber not doing the game. We're both pals with Adam Schefter, but that tweet about how the quick-thinking, dynamic Chiefs organization found out about the barber being COVID positive and pulled right mid-haircut. It was like, oh, good Lord. Come on, Adam.
Guys, just cut each other's hair. Just wear a hat. You have a helmet on.
Okay, we're going to do some player props here. We'll go through these pretty quick. So Patrick Mahomes passing yards, and the number is 332.5 with a bias toward the under, 332.5.
Yes, it is a bias towards the under. Again, track meet super. I'm just all into the confetti party here. I'm going over. He was 325 in the AFC Championship game, And that was like a game that they kind of had in hand there at the end. They didn't have to move the ball. So
correct. Strong over.
Again, huge chunk plays. I think this is a fantasy fest. I do.
Yeah, strong over for me there. Maybe the Brady one's a little more interesting, 301.5. Again, strong, even stronger juice towards the under.
Yes, seriously. Like both of these are like seriously like pushing people away from these unders. Like they're pricey.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says. I don't know what they're expecting. Maybe that also speaks to like you were talking about the kookiness. Like maybe I'm not picking up on the vibe that they're sending in terms of the line is lower than I thought. So like maybe Vegas in their algorithm sees something different than me, which is very possible.
There's this notion as people talk more and more about this game that one of these teams is gonna take the air out of the ball. One of these teams, maybe the Buccaneers, and maybe it's Ronald Jones as MVP because they're just going to try to have the ball for 38 minutes and
eat the game.
Mahomes will be great, but they won't have the ball enough to and it's a typical Parcells, Belichick. Belichick never blew anybody out in the Super Bowl. Like that's not what they did, right? They just tried to play a close game and then trust their guy at the end. I'm not sure I subscribe to that thought, but. Yeah, I mean, we talked with Raybon earlier about Clyde Edwards-Helaire pass receptions, 2.5, and the under is minus 148. Like they just do not think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to catch it. Like there have been games, and Raybon mentioned the regular season Bills game where the Chiefs just decided, oh, you want to play back? Cool, we're going to run it for 280 yards, and there's going to be some of that in this game, and there's a chance that Edwards-Helaire, the Cajun lawyer, is more involved than he's been previously, but my God, Vegas doesn't think so.
They don't, no. And it's such like this is like the thing with player props. It seems like such an achievable number. Like
3. Come on.
This was the number for Devin Singletary last week was 2.5 or 2 weeks ago, and he didn't get it. He ended it with 2. Right. And like so every TJ Yeldon pass like an angel died. Or something like somebody in like Pittsburgh like lost their mortgage. I have no idea, but like something bad happened. A boat. Let's say a boat. They didn't lose their house. They lost their boat. But in any case, like why do you like? I don't even know why that guy has a Boston Whaler, but Edwards-Helaire hasn't caught a ball since like week 6. So that's not true. But he was used early. But like I think you're just betting on. That he like got super healthy in the last 2 weeks, and that like that Williams still isn't a big factor. So I don't know how to read this.
And I said it. I mean, CEH. They're not only disrespecting him as a pass receiver. The over/under. I said to Raybon 30.5 for rushing yards. Like there's just no rushing in this game for the Chiefs. Says Vegas. Would you go? I think I'm over on that.
I'm over on the rushing. I don't even know what to say about the
receiving
receptions.
Yeah.
Like, that's just so difficult for me.
How about Gronk pass receptions? It's 2.5. Which is, it's Gronk in a Super Bowl. Come on, man.
Again,
but
so achievable. Yeah, but I think Cameron Brate is like the guy now for them. He has been for a while. Like he's not running many routes, but he gets targeted like every single time he's on the field. Right. I think Gronk does some of those crazy video game like monster moves, like the one he had, the 29-yard reception he had. But I don't think he gets 3 receptions. I think it's gonna. Okay. I would take the under here. I mean, even though it's expensive.
It is expensive. Well, no. The Gronk one is the same. That's even money.
Yeah,
not even, but it's even juice. All right, let's do some fun. Like we'll wrap it up with the goofy stuff. Tell us, how long will the national anthem last? Is it over or under 120.5 seconds?
Did some research on this one. The average anthem is 1:56. So we're talking about like 1.5. So we're talking about like 1:16 and 5 seconds. Jewel in 98, you made a lot of money on the under. 127. Like what was she doing?
Whipped right through.
And then I think, I don't know what year it was, but Alicia Keys like did like 14 minutes or something. I don't know what it was. It was incredible. She like taught count 2 in between. It was incredible. I am taking the under just because I just think they're getting this person in and out. I don't even know who's doing it, but it's an under.
The Vegas is with you, right? That's minus 185. If you could get someone,
just an under.
Yeah, if you get someone to like just to go brave for a really long time, it would be plus 146. That'd be pretty good. All right, coin flip. It's minus 104 each way, but you know what's going to happen. What is it?
Yeah, tails never fails. It rhymes. Heads, you go to bed. Yeah.
Tails never fails. And the Gatorade color, what do you got?
Too obvious. It's going to be red because both teams are red. The only one is the clear part. It made me think it's plus 626. I immediately thought of Barry Bonds, and then I thought of Tom Brady, like the clear. So I thought but then I thought if you actually put something in your drink, you wouldn't want it to be you'd want it to be masked if it had any coloring agents. So that threw me off. But I'm thinking red. Orange is 156 for a reason because it tastes like popsicles. It's the only good Gatorade. But then the red tastes like fluoride treatments. But I think because of the pageantry of the teams, I'm gonna go red. And because it's such a good payoff, plus 342. Yeah. And it's and I also appreciate that that the yellow green is they make sure that you know that it's lime.
Yellow,
the
green,
only
lime,
one that they mix in the flavor. They're like yellow, green, lime. The other one's like purple. And the no liquid is just what animal is that? And why is no liquid only $2.90?
They think Bruce Arians will just yell at somebody if they pour liquid on him because he's going to catch cold, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think that's likely. I wouldn't bet no liquid, but I'll bet red pink with you. Finally, I gave you a big list of potential MVPs with all of their odds. I'm certainly not going to read them all here. And the Mahomes bet is congratulations, here's double your money. It's essentially a plus 100 bet. So that might, even though you might think that's the likeliest outcome, you might just not think it's enough of a reward to take the chance. Was there any Super Bowl MVP bet that you liked among any of the players I listed?
I like Kelsey a little bit.
1150, so 11 to 1.
But that's going to be Mahomes. So it messes me up because the quarterback gets it. But I also think just I don't know if they want to get weird with it. If they want to in the Karl Malone kind of sense, like how LeBron doesn't win every MVP. I could see them being well, Mahomes is going to win some. This guy, here he goes. If he has 14 catches for 190 and 2, right, and does some incredible plays, I could see that being a narrative. And same with Hill, but Kelsey has a little bit more juice, so I like it. And then the other one would be if I don't believe these are the outcomes of the games, but a running back from Tampa would be the only other ones because those are really high returns.
Which is crazy to me that Fournette is 25 to 1 and Ronald Jones is 80 to 1. That's crazy.
I would do the 80 to 1.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. If I'm going to take a total long shot, I'd say Ronald Jones for 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. They keep the ball 38 minutes and 80 to 1. I don't think it's what's going to happen, but if I get paid 80 to 1, I'll bet $10. I wouldn't hate that either. Well, all right. Well, so obviously we won't be attending Super Bowl parties, but we will communicate about. I'll text you as all this unfolds. And I'm sure we'll also all be live tweeting, and Jim will have some classics. So please follow him on Twitter @_ Jimmy McCormick. Ask him about the latest legal wranglings of the _ family because we know they're entertaining. And you've come on all the weeks that we've had playoff games for on the podcast here, and I really appreciate it personally. I love talking to you, and so you're going to take a little break, but so the folks will hear you where? What are you going to be doing?
I do a daily NBA article for ESPN every day. It's called Daily Notes. Has about a 6-hour shelf life, which is fun. But no, it's fun, and that's pretty much what I do. I'm in NBA mode right now, but I am definitely going to make jokes about this game and relate them to Nick Foles somehow, or my fallen angel.
His fallen angel, indeed. Thanks to Jim and thanks to Chris for being on the show. Thank you very much for listening. Let me also thank today's sponsors. We had Burrow, we had Gabby Insurance, and we had DraftKings. I would love it. Check out the show notes of this MP3 file. Check out harrisfootball.com. You can find their promo codes and their URLs. And if you're so impelled to support them and use our codes and stuff, that lets them know that sponsoring, even in the off season, sometimes works out, and it means that they come back, and you do a wonderful job supporting the sponsors. It's how this show continues, and I thank you so much for it. This was a really long episode, but that's okay, because it is about the Super Bowl, and we had the huge news of Goff and Stafford, and so I had originally just planned on having Chris and Jim on to talk about the Super Bowl, and then we had this 20 minutes of another topic to talk about. So, all right, a little bit long. I hope you had fun. I hope you listened all the way through. You're hearing the sound of my voice now. Remember to check out Indeed. I put a link in the show notes of the job that the YouTube channel is posting, a little freelance gig there. If you're a marketing type person, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you again so much for listening. Starting next week, it really is the full off season. We're going to start talking about things like the NFL draft. We're going to start talking about things like free agency and who might land where. We will have fun doing it. I hope you continue to listen. We'll be back once a week all the way through the NFL draft and even a little bit after we take a break. And then, of course, we come back in July. So I will talk to you next week. Until then, again, your hat, very awesome. I hope you keep your chin up. I hope we all keep our chins up. Stay safe. I'll talk to you next week.
The Harris Football Podcast's opening theme is Under the Gun by Apex Manor. The closing theme is Say Yes by The Wellspring. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and never miss an episode.